start off with receiving apologies for absence.
So apologies from Councillor Bradington, Councillor Pratt and Councillor Chapman.
So now for item 2, to note declarations of members' interests. No? All good. Thank you. So item 3, to confirm and sign the minutes of the Public Services Committee meeting held on the 3rd of September 2024. So if I have someone to propose. Thank you. Seconded. Great. So all those in favour? Unanimous. Was he? No. So yeah, you weren't. Yeah, you weren't. You weren't. That's all. Okay. That's fine. Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. So now for item 4, public participation. Do we have any members of the public who want to take part or comments?
We haven't received any questions or comments this evening.
Okay. Thank you. So then to item 5, to note year-to-date financial position for the Public Services Committee.
Thank you. So hopefully you all have a copy. There are a few notes in red against town centre budget area, regeneration projects, etc. These relate to expenditure on Lyceum Square activity. There is a breakdown on the page after, and those have been reallocated. So various costs from earmarked reserves for basically for the crazy races and Lyceum Square events.
I think that was a great success. Being involved in it, it was absolute mayhem, but in the nicest possible way, of course. But I think everybody that come enjoyed themselves. Everyone I spoke to certainly did. So, and the nutters that come down in them cars, sorry, I couldn't do that.
Brilliant. So, are we happy to note?
Yeah.
Thank you. So then, on for item 6, to receive an update on progress and consider matters related to the business delivery plan 24-25.
So, if we look through the delivery plan, it's all been rated according to where we're up to. Most of the plan is delivered or in the process of delivery. On the whole, that's all proceeding well. There are some small items to consider. Town centre maintenance incorporates our contracts for service delivery, which are going to plan, but we're still in the process of recruiting a 4th town ranger. The closing date for applications is Thursday of this week, which may be extended if we do not have sufficient quality applications, but we'll see how we stand on Thursday with that. Floral schemes are being provided according to the plan, and the winter scheme has now been installed. CCTV, as I've mentioned before, has recently been enhanced with additional cameras funded by the Police Crime Commissioner through the Safer Streets funding. This includes new cameras for the Southern Gateway and the Lifestyle Centre. So if you look outside these offices, there are 3 cameras now positioned, covering different parts of this and also other cameras in the town centre. A new camera has been installed at the Victoria Centre, and so I will now arrange for planters that were ordered earlier in the year to be placed in that square. Because of the vandalism that's happened in the past, we've held back on doing that until this point. We have sufficient budget to replace a mobile camera, which has previously been agreed, but at the moment there is no case being made to install an additional camera for Cleaner Crew. We did recently help with the reinstatement of the camera on Lord Street. We do, however, have issues to consider at some of the parks. Samuel Street and Westminster Street pop up quite frequently with issues. So therefore, I've asked in this report for you to consider allocating the new camera, the replacement mobile camera, to one of these sites, pending checks to suitable lighting columns There will be an installation cost on top of the cost that you've previously agreed for the camera itself, of £500. That's to place a socket on a lighting column. I've also attached here a CCTV report in the appendix and a map of the current locations of all the cameras. Brookhouse Road Park as an item is being reported on later as a later item at this meeting. The same with Public Realm and Regeneration Projects budget, also being covered in a later item. Although I'll just mention that Keep on Keeping On, which is highlighted in yellow or amber on the report there. There was a delay to that. We've been waiting for the whole project, which is an external project that we're supporting to bring to Crewe, had to be resubmitted to the Arts Council on the Arts Council's request for some extra activity. So we're waiting now for a response. That should be received in early January. And if it is received at that point, then we're clear to go ahead with the project. And there's a £5,000 contribution from this committee in earmarked reserves ready to go to that project. Town Centre, the decorative lights are in the process of being installed. The ones on Market Square were on a couple of nights ago. The bid is starting to develop well now. The project manager started in post on the 23rd of September. And the first project was a series of pumpkin-based displays, carved displays in the town. They're now looking at enhancements to the Christmas lights. So the scheme that's being produced by the Town Council, they're looking to fund some additional enhancements on Nanswich Road and possibly on Mill Street too. It's a little bit late in the day, but it's not beyond the realms of delivery. So they're pushing to try and get something done for that. They've also appointed a marketing agency, which I assisted with that assessment of. They will start work on a destination website for Crewe to promote the bid businesses and also Crewe attractors and activities. So that's an opportunity to promote all good things going on in Crewe that might give visitors a reason to come. And the branding of that will be based on the Crewe brand values, the ones already established. The Cleaner Crewe project is still marked in red. We are awaiting a decision from Cheshire East Council based on the proposals that they've recently consulted on. Therefore, it's looking likely that our allocated budget will not be used in this financial year, but I'll provide an update as soon as I can on that. With regard to allotments, we've recently organised for some conifer trees on the Henry Street allotments to be reduced in height following requests from residents in that area. And I've highlighted the cost there was £1,168, which has come from the allotments budget. So to summarise, I'm asking the committee to note the report, in particular delays to the Cleaner Crewe project and the recent expenditure on tree work. I'm also asking your consideration of allocating a new mobile camera to be sited at one of two parks, Samuel Street or Westminster Street, subject to one of the sites lighting columns being suitable.
Could I just ask about when you say about the practice either Samuel Street or Westminster Street, is it based on the available electricity supply that you've been to, or are you asking us as a committee member?
Well, if you have a preference, then please, yes, please do state, and I will.
Yeah, I was going to say, Chair, because Samuel Street is the next pocket park, one of the next two to be upgraded. Westminster Street and Valleybrook won't be until probably about a year's time or towards the end of 25. So I would have thought Samuel Street would have been the best option as it's being done. The consultation, I think, has just been completed on that scheme, so that I guess that would have been one to drop it into.
I would agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would.
So in that case, then, in terms of that part where it comes down to supporting the installation of mobile camera, first of all, we're saying now we prefer Samuel Street. And of course, we're approving the additional costs. So on those 2 points, then, unless anyone has anything to say, can I have a proposer? Thank you. Seconded.
Well, absolutely, yeah, I mean, that's
So-
a very interesting report, there's plenty to it, and that's a decision not making we'll come to, isn't it?
Yes.
That you just mentioned. What I'd like to know about is, well, two things. Yes, there's the red highlighted item, which is the Cleaner Crew project. Is it? I mean, as far as I can tell, there might be a decision from one of the committees, the Environmental Communities Committee, in the next week or two, whenever they meet. They'll be considering the results of consultation. But whatever their decision, how likely is it? Have we got any idea of how likely it is that if they go ahead with the 3 weekly bin collection, it's by no means certain. But if they decide to do that, have we got any indication of how likely it is that all these promised goodies, additional support for crew in the way of enforcement and education and all that? How likely is that to occur? And are we likely to get to know the results in time so to make any decision at our preset meeting in 3 weeks' time?
I'll defer to.
Clark.
The decision is yet to be made, as you said. The Cheshire East Committee meeting's actually moved on a few days to a week past when it was anticipated anyway. It's now in the middle to the second half of November. Just check today as it happens. We won't know exactly what the proposals are in the final report until that agenda is published on the Cheshire East website, which will be, I think, Wednesday next week. I could be wrong, but I think from memory, looking at today, that's what it is. And then we'll see what the recommendations of the officers are at that point. I have not heard anything different to the earlier expectations of what came out of the consultation. However, this council represented that 3 weekly bin collections would not be appropriate for crew, but recognised that without those changes across the borough, there would be no financial capacity for them to support more provision for crew in terms of enforcement and education. So you're right about we're in abeyance until we know what comes out of that report and then the onward decision of that committee whether it's going to follow recommendations. That report will be published as public record 1 week prior to the Cheshire East Committee meeting.
Could someone explain to me how this saves money? Because I can't see it. Because they're still going to have to employ the same amount of people.
Across a borough, when you reduce the collections significantly, as you will, by about 30 to 40%, that's what it'll be on that household general waste collections.
Right.
You're saving because of all the wagons that go out and how often they go and how much it costs to run a wagon across the borough from Middlewich to Macclesfield or wherever it's going to go. They're saving a significant amount of money. I can't remember the number, but it's in a region of £1 million.
All right.
Yes, and so the cost of their additional provision for crew is significantly less, in the region of 100,000.
Right.
So that's where the savings.
So they're saving it on mileage, I suppose. Yeah.
Well, and hours. You know, there's a lot of agency staff support bin wagons as well.
Is
Yeah. So it's hard to retain workers on the bin rounds, and they have to go to agencies to fill the gap sometimes. So it's an expensive thing. So any 30-40% savings is significant in that service, and that's where the money's coming from. And then that's when this council will be asked to consider will it support the process of added resource for crew in terms of 2 enforcement officers and their community engagement or education with some associated.
So if there weren't a decision, there is no decision, we still have the figure in draft. What would we do? Would we make an earmarked reserve, or would we just sort of say it's going to be carried forward? How would it be handled?
I think we'd first seek very absolute clarity from our partners at Cheshire East as what their intentions will be. I do know they issued their second financial forecast of the year, which is not wholly positive.
Not only positive.
It's it's not as negative as it has been in the
Yeah.
past, but it's not
Yeah.
not something that you set off the party poppers for. So we don't know. Cheshire East is in a very challenging position. I am hopeful that the consultation has come forward and informed their decision, their report. The report will reflect most of, if not all, has been discussed before, and the committee will be advised accordingly. I would hope that our partners at Cheshire East would have contacted us if it was going to be something different, and I believe they would have. So I could be naive, but we'll find out. I can't answer it, but it's over to Cheshire East, and we await that report, and then we await the decision of that committee, and then we can know. But if it were to be in the conditional tense, as we had a day, Steve, if it were to be that Cheshire East wasn't in a position to progress as we were first anticipating, then of course we would return to this committee and say, what would you like to do? There is a budget allocation. Would you like to use it along those lines, along wholly different lines? Push it down the line and wait for Cheshire East to get their decision over the line and earmark, as we say. And so all those options are available to you in that conditional position. In the hopeful naivety and positivity of intent, I am hopeful they'll make a decision and we'll have greater resource for crew and we can support that.
Sorry, can I just sorry, 1 second,
I mean, basically,
Councillor? Sorry, just Councillor Waters has been waiting to speak.
Yeah, I mean, mine's probably just an opinion, but I mean, from just picking up from what Pete said about Cheshire East not being able to retain workers, and they have to go to agencies. That costs more, yeah. So how is it easy for us to employ someone which is a similar role really? It's cleaning up where there isn't the space. Are you with me? So would we find the same difficulty, and then it costs us, because staff retention is the key. So I'm just wondering, going back, what are they doing wrong to not be able to retain the right, employment? Because really, if we're going to put budget aside, we could potentially come across the same sort of issues. It's the same sort of job in a way. Okay, you're not on a wagon, you're not doing that, but you are picking up, refuse or sending by. It's a similar sort of role-ish.
Sorry,
That's
yes.
the issue.
Just to clarify, it's not at all a similar role. Sorry for the lack of clarity.
No.
The role we're talking about, this council might support Cheshire East with, which is the in-principle decision that's already happened, is a role that has already happened within what was the Cleaner Crew pilot project, and an officer at Cheshire East was the project lead. Motivated the community to take ownership of the alleyways, for example. It's been very successful at the alleyways where they're tied up and kept them tidy, and they got involved with finding the best ways to get information across to the diverse communities in those areas, whether it be different languages or different means of getting information to them, and creating the champion within that community. So it's not a lift the waste off the street.
Yeah.
The other two parts that Cheshire East will employ are actually enforcement officers, those that go around and investigate the issues of side waste and on-street waste that fall out in social behaviours. And so, for example, I'm wondering an example, I can't guarantee the project officer we're talking about would maybe be in a position to engage, as you stated very correctly in the past, to engage with landlords, for example. It's that sort of role rather than dealing with the bags of rubbish on the street.
Yeah. I probably phrased it wrong, but it seems to me it's like an employment issue is more the case of, I'm thinking the root issue seems to be, if somebody broke it right down, how much are we wasting on agency where you're being charged over and above to get the right member of staff. So maybe, I don't know, it's something that needs further dissecting.
Well,
it makes you...
we're not.
I know we're not.
Yeah.
I know.
That's a Cheshire East issue.
I agree. I totally agree. As I said, it's probably more an opinion of
May also
mine.
contribute to their current national issues.
Yeah, because it sounds like it. It just seems odd that you can't get staff to run things properly. We would need to go to this.
I like the fact that
3-week
Councillor,
thing.
sorry, I like the fact that Councillor Mortimer thinks that there could be enjoyment in being a bin man.
Well, but the thing is, I mean, at the end of the day, there's a role for everybody, isn't there?
Should be.
Not everybody wants to be academic or the rest. Of course there is.
Councillor Yates.
I suggest we suspend the discussion
Mm.
about this and we wait until
Yeah.
see what the outcome is from Cheshire East. We take a view then.
What a
Yeah.
good idea.
Agreed.
So basically, you were saying when we could get that down to the budget figure, something will appear when it comes to the preset meeting in about a month's time.
I would hope we'd have a lot more clarity about
So
Mm.
yeah, so we may face a decision perhaps. Of, are we going to persist with this, support for the scheme or not? Because I mean, Cheshire East's position is that they're looking for comfort from us or support from us, and we will put forward. They will support that, and it's sort of like you say, conditional. If that happens, then we may get some goodies. So it's something probably to leave in. Leave it and see what happens. However, it's dealt with. I mean, it could just be something that's a delayed spend.
If you recall at council, the previous recommendation of this committee was deferred with the positive intent of supporting Cheshire East subject to their final decisions following consultation, and we're still in that position. I think council may be in a position to confirm its position, hopefully, following Cheshire East committee meeting in a couple of weeks.
Right. Absolutely, in terms of the actual report in itself, is there any other question about any of the parts of the report? Yes, Councillor Yates.
I was just going to say that I think this report is a really good example of actually what the town council can do, and how we continue to grow the range of things that we do, taking advantage of every opportunity that we have, and you can see some of the differences that are being made from it, but also you can see the stark differences between things that have been the responsibility of the town council and other things that have been the responsibility of other organisations. So if you walk down Queensway and you see how good the street columns look, for example, the painting that's been done, and then you just look to the left and you see the quality of the trees growing in the bomb site that's running alongside it. The serious thing is, this is a really good example of stuff that this town council can do.
Absolutely, and I think to echo that, maybe it's the company we keep, but I do believe that the word is out there and people are recognising where town council has made the difference as well, which is good. It's good to have that positive feedback within all the concerns that people have.
I think you could say so. From my perspective, anyway, an individual, it's a celebration of the relative freedom we've actually got as a town council to decide what we actually do, and so hopefully reflect what people want within the resources we've got, which is a far cry actually. It's very easy to rubbish Cheshire East Council or any principal council, but they haven't got a lot of freedom, as far as I can tell. I think that's the big difference.
Yes.
Small, but we're free.
So, can I ask then, first of all, to note the report as it is? Is that okay?
Yeah.
And then to return to the question about the mobile camera, just to confirm that we talked about the idea of setting up in Samuel Street, and obviously the additional cost of £500. Just to reiterate, I got a bit confused as to who's handling it there. Can I have someone to forward it?
Yeah.
And second it? Sure. And then have all those in favour? That's unanimous. The second part is to note the anticipated delay to investment on the Cleaner Crew project. So that's just a notation. Is that okay with everyone?
Yeah.
Okay. And then thirdly, to note the Tree Work Commission to reduce the height of trees on the boundary of Henry Street allotment and Mary Street. The estimated cost is £1,168 plus VAT. So that's just a notation again. Okay with notating?
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Excellent. Thank you very much. So then on to item 7. To consider matters related to the regeneration projects and public realm improvements.
So at the last meeting, I recorded a report with suggestions as to the application of public realm and regeneration projects budgets. It was resolved to delegate this to myself and to the chair with the clerk. Following discussion with the chair, we're now proposing to look at creation of a suspended display, which was one of the options provided in the last report. So display over Hill Street, which itself would be seasonal or temporary, but the infrastructure would enable future installations to be made. This is intended to create a number of benefits in terms of visual connection with the Southern Gateway and promotion of the Lyceum Square, Market Hall and Lyceum Theatre area, and to create an attraction for residents and visitors based on using images suspended over that area from Cruise Heritage. Secondly, the Town Council has a reserve associated with the Royal Arcade development. Now, while phase 2 of the development of the Royal Arcade area has been delayed, we do have a bus station and car park. The bus station has an external artwork, but its waiting area is currently devoid of any kind of sense of arrival in Crewe. And in the report, I enclosed some pictures of the view that passengers and visitors have when they visit that area. It's therefore proposed to commission the design and installation of a suitable display or artwork to greet passengers and provide an attractive facade in that area, utilising some of the earmark reserve. So I'm asking for approval to allocate up to £8,000 from earmark reserves for hoardings of frontages for the project. Should this be approved, we would invite interested committee members to join the steering group to oversee that work. So in summary, I'm requesting approval for the 2 projects to focus regeneration project budget on the suspended display over Hill Street and to allocate £8,000 to develop an installation at the River Station.
Yeah, I'll move.
Excellent.
Can I just say that my first venture into the bus station was yesterday, and I was really impressed. The only thing is, at the moment, having little legs, I had to walk miles to get round it, because to get to where I wanted to go, didn't matter which way, it was a long way round. Why can't we put a path right through the middle of that? What did you call it, bomb site?
That was the plan. To have that path. That's the trouble.
Yeah, but yeah, it's fantastic for a bus station.
Yeah.
I think it's brilliant.
So yes, councillor.
Yeah. I mean, I'm all in favour of the town council doing what it can to gild the lily, or whatever it might be. I do wonder. I mean, figures seem to vary about the spending on the bus station and the multi-storey car park. I'm not so sure. Perhaps Simon can clarify this. I don't know. You know, the figures quoted for the spending on construction. Some say, it's 5 million. Some say it's 11 million. Now, as far as I know, 5 or 6 million was the cost of buying the site. So presumably there's another 6 million or so. But that, whatever it is, several £1 million have been expended on those 2 buildings, which was always the commitment of public spending. So it'd be nice to know exactly actually how much did it cost to build the bus station and the multi-storey car park, leaving aside the land for the site, the purchase of the site, about 10 years ago. And I just wonder, if there's there must surely be some sort of budget or that Cheshire East Council has for doing work.
The money
to finish the job.
The money for the bus station, the car park, is public money. Most of it came from the local enterprise partnership.
Yeah.
And I think the rest came from Cheshire East. I think when the original Royal Arcade scheme was put together under a previous administration, I think it was about 50 million. The half of it was public sector money. About 25 million was public sector money, 25 million was going to be private investment in phase 2. And if you remember, phase 2 was going to be phase 1. And what, about 5 years ago, this town council and the town board and the new administration at Cheshire East reversed that, because otherwise we would have still been waiting for the bus station now. Because the original plan was to do the cinema and the restaurant and the bowling alley first, and then do the bus station and the car park. So they were reversed. The assumption, of course, being that the private sector money would come in to do phase two.
So
But I mean, I just wondered, has all the has it all been spent, as one former chancellor used to say, or is there some money, still available within the Cheshire East Council?
Cheshire East borrowed, of course, in order to make their contribution, which of course has been one of the problems now about spending any money on the bomb site, because Cheshire East would have to borrow the whatever it was, whatever the cost of doing up the bomb site. They'd have to borrow that, and of course that's why there's been a big hold on it.
So can I ask, just so in terms of relating to this question here, are you talking about in terms of is there any other money relating to the building that we could use?
Well,
that we are asking?
it does seem odd. To me, it does seem odd that millions have been spent on a wonderful new bus station. I've walked through it as well, and been up with the limbs of the car park ceiling and all the rest of that. Very nice. And you think, well, obviously, no thought was given at any to that aspect of such a design at any stage, and you would expect it, actually, irrespective of the rise in interest rates in the last year or two. I mean, because all that planning was done, I don't know, 5, 6, 8 years ago, when money was cheap.
So,
but anyway, I just wondered if there's money somewhere, lying in a pot somewhere that could also be used to, further embellish the bus station and other sites. So I'll leave it at that.
Councillor.
Just a quick question, really. Talk about if there's any money in the park. I mean, again, probably it's just my opinion. I think if there's any money in the park, I think what would serve a better purpose was to have shutters in and out of the car park for security, automated in and out, because there isn't that. I found it bizarre how they have this security tab at the side of the door. So you have your car parking ticket, so you scan it to get in. And it seems a bit pointless when you can walk in and out as you like anyway. It just seems a backwards way of security. And then they're employing, obviously, security guides there because kids are going up and down roller skating. So if there was any money, I think the car park, yes, they spent a lot of money. I've been up there, I think it's fantastic, but they've missed the biggest thing, which is it should have had automatic shutters in and out. It's not complete. I mean, I did email Cheshire East about it and I spoke to them about it, and they just came back with the usual, as if somebody's printed it off a computer and no, we're not doing anything about it, and that's how it is. But I think from a security point of view, and more people using it, and again, Cheshire East would benefit with the revenue of people using it. I can't see families using it in winter security on the sea, because I think it won't be too long before we will get graffiti, we'll get people sheltering rubbish, perhaps, because that's just the nature of how life is, unfortunately. So if there was any money, I would like to see it for that project to be complete. So therefore, whatever has been spent has been public money well spent, in my opinion.
I understand what you're saying about that, but I think I imagine when it comes down to what we're discussing in terms of the
I know, it's just
the artwork side.
I know, it's just Steve brought that up and I thought.
Oh no, I mean in terms of allocation of money, it's not a case of one pot to the other.
I know.
Because I mean, our role is to top up. It's not to do the basic.
No,
yeah,
I know.
It's to add.
I know.
To what?
I know. But sometimes I think if we want to play a good part, if we want to play our part, and at the end of the day, it's our car park. So if we are seen to make that right, I think the public was more than happy about that.
Clark. Sorry.
To answer a couple of those questions, I can confidently, without any fear of being contradicted by any of my colleagues at Cheshire East or anywhere else, confirm that Cheshire East does not have any money for any future works on that site.
Yeah.
I have read the financial report that has been issued yesterday, and it's very clear that there is no money. That's it. So they have a revenue budget that is already overstretched. Their reserves are effectively
Gone.
zero, and they're in a very, very difficult position. So, in terms of can Cheshire East stump up for any of this, the answer I would suggest, quite confidently, is no. And that's not speculation. That's based on the financial report just issued. In terms of, you made the comment of adding value. What we do is add value. Hopefully, we augment services and we, from the ground up, influence and deliver municipal services and enhancements to the life and experiences of those visiting and living in Crewe. That's the principle. It was Lindsay who actually first mooted the idea of a sensible arrival, the bus station, to the board, and the suggestion there should be a sensible arrival in Crewe, and that's why you have the very large piece of art on top. Not to everyone's taste, I understand that, but it's not a blank concrete wall.
Yeah.
That's a win.
Cheers.
And I'm happy to go on the record and say I think entirely enhances the approach into that side. And what you're being asked to consider to enhance that space that Dennis had to walk the miles through on his little inside. Where, as it happens, I use buses. I've sat in that bus station, and it's a very nice, clean bus station. It's very stark. And again, we have the chance to add value, and that's what Lindsay's proposing here. Or suggesting, sorry, and in doing that, we're also adding value to the emerging art trail we're creating. That's another part of that. It gives opportunity for that creation and culture that we're trying to nurture as well. And we're certainly enhancing an environment where many people pass through, residents and visitors. And it's a low resource in, by the way. Now, in terms of whether we could enhance the car park, there are a few issues with that. One, and I'll be absolutely frank, on the record, dealing with Cheshire East assets can be quite challenging at times. And that will be a restriction to the deliverability of any project on that basis. Equally, I'll put my hand into this one, I don't understand the complexities and nuances of running a multi-storey car park, and I wouldn't like to be put in the line of those to blame for it not working correctly. So I think it's an area of expertise we don't have. Whilst I'm sure your suggestions are perfectly valid, and I think we should continue making those suggestions, I wouldn't wish to pause delivery of projects trying to agree a mitigation with Cheshire East assets on this. I think would be in an ever increasing spiral into some sort of hell. So I'm counselling against that approach. Whilst we can vocalise it, suggest we don't put too much resource.
No. I just raised it.
Yeah, I think it's about
that was all. I understand. Yeah, I understand.
Councillor J. Francis.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just wondering if we've got this bomb site, as it's called. I was just wondering if we've got no money to do it, then maybe we could ask for people to sponsor people like Bridgemere and all the other area garden centres in the area. Might think to yourself they could put an area in to make it more pleasant. I'm not saying it would work, but if we don't ask and don't try, then I don't know whether it's been done or not. So that's why I'm asking. Maybe that might be a way of doing it.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. Yes, Councillor.
I think the future of the Royal Arcade site will be another item on another meeting. I'd like to bring us back to the report and particularly welcome the proposal on Hill Street. I haven't done so yet because obviously waiting to find out if this committee will support this, but if the committee does support this, I'll be on to my friendly director of the Crewe, Alex FC, for the idea that I floated past him 2 years ago about doing that. So thank you very much. Well done.
Thank you. Yes.
No, I want to say that few days ago, we went to Nantwich to the museum, but I was struck by the figures that were there on the graveyard. Well, the site next to the church, and there were these figures of soldiers, silhouetted, and they came into my mind as soon as my colleague here, my learned colleague here, mentioned bombicide. I thought, well, an appropriate time with Remembered Sunday and everything else coming up, they call it World War Day, not Armistice Day. If we're going to find any way of embellishing the bomb site in the middle of town, that would be one way to do it. But of course, to suggest that would be frivolous and outside of our remit, wouldn't it? But it wouldn't be very expensive. I mean, something has to be done with it, but as it's been said, that'll be a discussion for another day, I expect.
Yes. Yes, Councillor.
Well, just quickly, I was going to concur with Councillor Francis about that. So I think that's a really good idea. I really do, because I think it's a centre of town with, nice little station and then we're let down by that park. And I think actually, if you don't ask again, why not? Makes sense if they would. You don't know.
Yes.
I think it's a good idea.
I think even though we're focusing obviously on that area and a wider point, we need to still bring it back to the discussion at hand, which is Clark.
If it may help, whilst the report talks to different aspects, just for information purposes, I have been talking to colleagues at Cheshire East about, let's call it Royal Arcade Phase 2. The phrases are more fun though. The site did have allocated an earmark reserve to fulfil the required works on it. Unfortunately, due to Cheshire's position, that has since disappeared. And it's clear this council has a position on that piece of land. It's already made a resolution that the land should be green whilst awaiting a future permanent use of any significant value. And we are in a position to support that. Cheshire East is aware of that. Equally, I know the leader of Cheshire East Council is having meetings with the Chief Executive of Cheshire East Council to press this matter as a state of urgency within Cheshire East. Now, I've also been talking to other partners about potentially assembling a funding package that will suffice to get those barriers down, get some green on there, and at least get it open looking like something. It does require the Cheshire East to come and join us in that discussion, but they are having their own internal discussion, which may result positively. I honestly don't know, but I anticipate we'll be returning to this committee with a proposal which will probably involve an awful lot of time and effort to help get to an end point, which might involve commercial partners, will more than likely involve third sector partners, and effectively a conglomerate. Hopefully, we have a significant role in potentially. If that's what's required, maybe Cheshire East will address it at that time. Not sure. I don't think so.
Okay, thank you.
So, if anyone's got any questions regarding the actual the considerations sought, I'd like to sort of take maybe the two in one, if that's okay, and then ask for a proposal. Thank you. Seconding. Fantastic. So, all those in favour? Thank you.
Excellent. Well done.
So, item 8. To consider matters related to Brookhouse Drive, as in Pebblebrook Park, improvements and nature towns and cities funding.
Thank you. So, Pebblebrook or Brookhouse Grove Park Council has allocated £200,000, which represents two years' worth of budget to improvements in the park. A consultation was carried out last year, so that gave the guidance on the approach to this piece of work. We now have some drawings which are included in the report. In Appendix A and also Appendix B illustrates some items, just to give some examples of play enhancements that would be made to the site. And we also have indicative costs against the menu of improvements that we'd like to tackle. A lot of infrastructure cost in this particular project because of the drainage issues and the need for paths on that site to make what's there accessible. And there are some limitations on the play area site itself with big cables that go under that play area, which limits slightly what we can do. So I've indicated some costs and provided some drawings. We do have the scope to have another set of revisions to those drawings based on your responses this evening. And we can look at varying costs to some extent in terms of the breakdown provided. But overall, we should be able to deliver what is on there. Where we still have some question marks are on drainage, in that in the ideal world, taking better care of our environment, what we would like to do is drain the sites into a pond, catching pond if you like, which would create some different sort of habitat for wildlife and prevent us just sending water straight into the brook. We are still waiting for some advice and some guidance and possibly some support for colleagues in Cheshire East Council in Highways and from the Valley Brook Partnership on that, and some calculations we're asking if they can provide for us on sort of amounts of drainage that would be produced. So that may be a nice add-on that we can't afford. It might be luxury we can't afford at this point, we're not quite sure. But overall, there is a scheme or a suggested scheme for you. We can make some variations according to the costs when they finally come out in terms of perhaps number of seats, amount of markings on a play area or not, quite small changes. But otherwise, I'm asking members to give me their view on the design. If they have any comments, what would they be? And also some indication if we do have to trim this back at all, where would you wish us to make those cuts to meet the project within the budget of 200,000?
Just to kick it off then, I think it's fair to say the ward councillors for Crewe South were involved with this, weren't they?
Yes, they were. Yeah.
So I would have thought if there were any revisions required, or further revisions, that they've got their own first comment, which is that would be that one scheme. So I mean, I'll shake a nod on my head tonight. To really comment, because they've been quite heavily involved in the detailed work on this. So I can't answer. But anyway.
Fair comment.
I think it's a very good design, isn't it? I mean, I suppose that one of the differences around this part was just the sheer size, isn't it? Really compared with, I mean, this is bigger than a good number of the pocket parks, isn't it? Really.
It is.
So I mean, this is really quite a different approach. I mean, I think the design and the content of things is looking really good. Let's see what the prices come in and see what the scale of any chop has to be. I would have thought before going any further with it.
Mason,
Yeah, I'm wondering quite like Councillor Yates in there. It's a much larger scheme than we've done before, but the purpose is, I think as Lindsay said, is to try and make the park more usable for all, through the drainage and the pathways roads. It might be a consideration. I don't know, Lindsay, you can clarify the timescale you'll be working to, because it's a procurement process, and then once that's in, you have to contract to it as quick as possible to secure the prices. That members might consider that if there are any efficiencies made on the shopping that's there, that it might be delegated to the officer and the chair unless it can be brought to a meeting in a timely way. It just depends on the scheduling rules there. But it might end up costing more by waiting for a meeting, and we might miss an opportunity to deliver a bit more. It's only a suggestion.
Really.
I do think yes, there's but I'm also in favour of the idea of having
Oh yes, some more
Crew
consultation
South
members. Yes, sorry.
involved to be pulled in if need be to have that discussion.
Yeah, I think it'd be wise. Sorry, quite right. I apologise. I didn't mean to ignore that. In between now and then, there's an opportunity to engage with the Crew South members for their comments as well, and that can feed into any decision that either under delegation or at each committee. That's sorry. I wasn't dismissing that. I was part of that. Just trying to make sure we didn't miss an opportunity along the way due to scheduling and poor meetings.
No, I absolutely agree with that part.
Can I just ask? It's saying here in the report that ANSA will be undertaking the procurement.
Yes.
Given the impending change in brought back in house in about 4 months' time or 5 months' time, is that like to have an impact?
So we've had this conversation. This work should be carried out before the end of the financial year. Maybe some residual works that haven't been completed, and we may need to address those as we progress. But the intention is to contract this and get it done.
Yeah.
As another reassurance, I happen to know that the officers associated with this that Liz is working with will be closely aligned with procurement within Cheshire East to have to change anyway.
Yeah.
So just going back to the considerations to need to be sought. When in the first part, it says approval to proceed with the plans as drawn with any suggested amendments. Within the plans themselves, are we talking now we need to wait till on those considerations?
Well, if you approve that we make a start on this, I can certainly involve the ward councillors and have the same discussion with them, go through them with the procurement process, and if we need to make any revisions, we can. If you're happy for us to delegate that, we can do that through that conversation.
So,
and I would agree with Pete's point that if this means in order to be able to move quickly, that following consultation with the Crew South members, that the authority to proceed is delegated to you, Chair.
And I second.
Okay, so all those in favour of that commitment?
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anything else that needs to be considered regarding that to cover it all?
I don't think so.
Okay. So, item 9, to consider the 25-26 draft Public Service Committee budget.
Thank you. So we've been through the process, or you've been through the process of discussion of budgets, which have been recently to council, meeting in September. So we are now at the point where there is a proposed budget open for any further discussion this evening before finally being recommended back to council. Areas to note within the budget here are some increases obviously on the Ranger budget to represent anticipated costs. Some further improvement to floral schemes, increasing the budget there at £10,000. Cleaner Crew, which is still an estimation of what we may require next year, but that's certainly a budget we would work to. Also a reduction in the play area improvement schemes budget, but that reflects investments already or about to be made in play areas around Crewe and the parks. And in replacement, if you like, of that difference, we have the play area maintenance budget, which covers the cost of Ranger and works, and that wasn't previously included. That wasn't in last year's budget. Came in as an addition this year. So there's a shifting emphasis there to maintenance on play areas with a fund that can be used for further improvements. Allotment shows a slight increase and public realm and regeneration budgets are combined, reflecting the difference in emphasis for this committee, and that will become a heading of placemaking. So members are asked to consider and approve the budget with a view to making that final recommendation to F and G prior to consideration by full council in December.
Councillor.
Couple of comments. First is I support what's in this document. Second point is if as a result of the further deliberation before we get to full council, there are clearly a number of items in here which could be subject to amendment, couldn't they? In the same way there are some that couldn't. So I think that's fine. There's a mixture. There's an opportunity, if needs be, to reduce further. And the third point I would make is in relation to likely not to add into the budget, but I wonder whether we need to be recording somewhere something which recognises the fact that over the next 12 months we may well have other options around services, in the same way to some extent we've had a little bit of it this year, which would have an impact on what we spend. And I think Pete's recommendations in the past around that is if we agree to take on a particular service, in the first instance it would be dealt with through a reserve, rather than building something into the budget for next year, which is, given our difficulty in being able to engage with Cheshire East on the evolution of the services, would be assuming too much. So I'm not quite sure what the words would be, but it basically would be that there could be changes to what this committee is responsible for.
You're exactly right. The more we see Cheshire East face their challenges, the more opportunity there is to tackle direct service delivery from this council. You could, there's different ways. So I've taken the view, and it's not the right way, it's just our way, that we are now in a very strong and robust and resilient financial position with significant reserves, which gives us the opportunity to resist challenge, but equally the opportunity to address opportunities there. And that's a good thing. If you were minded to do so, it's certainly not trying to restrict you doing that. You could write in and there's something, I'm just making it as I go along now, a sum of money to tackle new service delivery opportunities. And you could write that into the budget. That's absolutely fine. That's what this committee is here to do. And we actually had a very important discussion at the start. We must discuss what you want to discuss and make it happen. There's nothing stopping you doing that. You can write that into the budget, write a budget line of new service delivery and put £50,000 against it if you want to. That's entirely any number. I'm not trying to predetermine your number. You can do that. I don't want to think of stopping. Obviously, whatever you put in that budget hits the bottom line, and that's just the sensitivity that you as members are always considering.
Yeah, and if I may, and that's exactly the point, isn't it? So I don't think we should be sort of hostage to fortunes around this sort of thing, and put something in which would have a direct impact on the reset for next year now. But perhaps if there's something which says that we will be looking for opportunities, clearly they would have to be built into a future budget if we took things on.
You can draw in a zero budget line if you like.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the way of doing it.
Yeah, and just start laying the groundwork. Yeah, that's another way of doing it, I suppose.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Hopper, did you have your hand?
Yeah, I think personally was look at the presence of the code budget in future. Take the Clean the Crew as the obvious example. It's not been spent. So the money's there, that's money for reserve. So it's entirely appropriate if something crops up that costs about that figure and is worth doing. There's money in reserve at least for 1 year that hasn't been expended to use. If that's what we want to do. Some sort of provision for future possibility, future prospects is no bad thing, but you wouldn't want to call it a contingency from the budget.
We would never call it.
No.
Because we plan accordingly and have the right position.
Opportunity officer.
Yeah, opportunity
I'm sure it can be solved.
Councillor.
Just adding up the figures, it's an increase of about 20,000 £100. Sorry, £20,800, which is under 5%, roughly. I'm not brilliant at doing percentages, but I don't think that's extortionate at all. So I'm quite happy with it.
Okay. So, in terms of the considerations are the members to choose. May choose to consider all areas of work associated with the committee and strategic direction. The above, obviously, is a draft that will be reported, subject to committee amendment to Finance and Governance Committee before including in the full council draft budget being presented to the council in December at the conclusion of the budget setting process, and also to consider all increases in costs will impact the level of precept required and potential increase that might lead to council taxpayers in Crewe. So, in terms of you needed us all to,
Can I suggest the phrasing that might help?
please.
And that might be that the committee might want to resolve that the budget is recommended to Finance and Governance and then onwards to Council as it is, but with an additional nil budget line to reflect the opportunity ambitions to deliver more local services.
Yes.
There's something about what do you mean by zero budget line?
Line is,
I'll ask that question.
it's a line that's got a zero value against it, but it demonstrates it's within the accountancy process that we can use it. And it's putting a line in the sand.
This indicates an intention. One thing struck me. That's one thing when we talk about these sorts of matters that what sort of strikes me is what I call spurious accuracy. Well, it may be spurious, it may not. I mean, well, we say clean the food 45 grand. It's a nice round figure, but it was 37,277. I was just looking at that bottom line figure, £63,948. Very, very precise for play area maintenance, as is the figure for CCTV.
Because those are negotiating contracts that are written.
Oh, they're written.
Yeah. Whereas I can answer those questions very easily. So the number associated with cleaning through the budget figures we discussed with Cheshire East prior to Radio Silence.
Yeah.
And then the rest are contracted, and then budgeted against placement.
Yeah, if you so.
Right. So Radio Silence, not Radio Club.
I wouldn't like to comment.
Thank you. That does answer my question, because I was thinking, it's here enough £500,000. Why not just round it up?
Because we're more professional than that, Councillor.
Yes.
Due to all of your leaderships.
You made a little mistake. That was just a tidy mind.
So, unless there's anything else, we can take all considerations in with the amendment to have the extra line in as well. Can I have a proposal, please?
Yeah.
And seconding? Brilliant. And all those in favour? Carried. Yes. So, finally, just comes down to item 10. That is to note the proposed date for the next meeting being Tuesday, the 28th of January 2025, 6 p.m.